Israel, the occupier, waking up on October 7th, was not aware of what was about to befall it. In the early hours, sirens began to sound. The world was stunned.
They came with motorized paragliders. They bypassed all security measures.
Palestinian militants trying to infiltrate Israel by air, land, and even sea.
Hamas launched an attack on Israel. In a span of 20 minutes, it fired more than 5,000 rockets.
And even though no one was aware, that morning, the first moments of a breakthrough that would fundamentally change the region were being taken place. To understand today, one must go back more than a century. The exile, which began with Rome ending the Jewish kingdom, was reshaped centuries later by Zionist ideology. In the 19th century, Zionists, who had gained the economic power, began to find global support. There was neither the persecution by the Nazis nor the narrative of the Holocaust. However, the objective was quite clear: to establish a sovereign Jewish state in the land of Palestine. As long as Ottoman remained standing, this particular dream could not possibly become true. The Jewish Legion was sent to Ottoman lands. In 1917, with the Balfour Declaration, a Jewish homeland was promised in Palestine. After that, migration started. With the support of the English and the French, the Palestinian people were oppressed. In 1948, Israel was founded. The lands were usurped. The neighboring countries were silenced one by one. Then America intervened. There was no single power remaining to stand against Israel in the region now. But in a very small patch of land in Gaza, there was a people who never ceased to resist. They have been tested by hunger, embargoes, and bombardments, yet they never surrendered. The morning of October 7th was the breaking point of this patience, this anger. Walls once thought impassable were breached. The resistors defied to the world, saying, "We are still here," against the oppressor. Israel, who was seen in its true colors, had to act. They believed the only solution was to give the harshest reaction. However, betrayal was ingrained in their nature. Egyptian mongooses showed no regard for valor. They chose the civilian populace as their target.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
أنا بتدور أولاد الأربعة لا إله إلا الله أولاد الأربعة لا إله إلا الله يا الله يا عمي بعد شوي مشي معكم رجال وقع الله خيره هو عين شوي
After October 7th, when Israel, with arrogance and hubris, initiated a genocide in Gaza, a new conjuncture emerged. Meaning, first of all, we were witnessing a genocide on live broadcast. At that very moment, as the events were taking place, we were able to watch them. But the greater a situation is, in terms of crisis and pain, the more potential it actually has to contain its own solution. The stance and resistance of the people of Gaza has also led to the emergence of a whole new conjuncture. For the first time in Turkey, the entire Islamic community started to agree on one issue. Neither Syria nor Afghanistan nor any other topic had such a situation. At the same time, this also served as an occasion for the true face of Zionism to be seen by the world and Western peoples. So, conscientious people in the West took to the streets, showed reaction.
From the river to the sea! Palestine!
Thank you, successive American
We have clearly seen that we have reached a stage where the economic powers that the structure in front of us has systematically acquired and the technologies it has produced are being used today for the detriment of humanity. So far, we have not been able to stand thoroughly on the side of the lands we abandoned with the War of Independence and our brothers and sisters that we have ignored and othered with the logic of border states after October 7th. But we also saw that we had not prepared our own internal societies for this process during the fundamental preparatory stages. So, after October 7th, to highlight this situation, Muslims and people of conscience in Turkey began holding events in public spaces and squares, marches, rallies, protests, and aid campaigns, when it could be made cross through Egypt's Rafah border or through Jordan via the United Nations. We made real serious efforts, but we realized that we couldn't spread the issue to the grassroots either. We needed to go back and question this. Where did we diverge and where we went wrong actually? And in order for us to question this, the genocide process in Gaza, which started after October 7th, has been a lesson for us once again. And it led us to a process where we can shake ourselves, come to our senses back, and do our readings again.
After World War II, for what the Nazis did to the Jews for 60, 70 years, how have they presented themselves to us? We are the victims. They have made movies, wrote books, shot documentaries. They played the victim role to the whole world. And at the same time, during this process, all the imperialist states promoted certain organizations to emerge Islamophobia, or with they labeling some Islamic groups as organizations and presenting them differently, Islamophobia have emerged worldwide. Gaza also contributed to this. It revealed the long-standing lies of these states to the whole world. Actually, Jews, as you know, are not the oppressed, but a nation ready to oppress all other nations at the first opportunity. This is what Gaza has taught us, and at the same time, it shattered Islamophobia. When I look at it from this perspective, yes, we cry, we grieve, we suffer. But when we consider the intimate prayer of the matter and form a bond with our Lord, I also see that we must then recognize the good and surrender to Allah. For we are human beings, we of course get upset with emotional reactions. This is something else, this fact. But believing that everything serves Allah's destiny, I see this as such a step on the path to victory, inshallah.
The moments when she was desperately looking for a way out among the flames were heartbreaking. The Gazan kid emerged alive from the flames. A new one has been added to the images of Israel's torture of Palestinian prisoners. They are observed lying face down on the ground with their hands and eyes tied. 2 Israeli soldiers first lift a Palestinian who is lying on the ground, then they take him to the corner of the open space. At the same time, the soldiers who are waiting there raise their shields to obscure the camera's angle during the acts of sexual torture.
Gaza, as the guardians, our brothers, the Murabitun of Al-Aqsa, Allah has placed them in such a position that I see Gaza as a geography of the Ummah, shouldering the burden of the entire Ummah, and for nearly a century paying the heaviest price for it on behalf of our Ummah. And until now, thank Allah, they have never disappointed us so far. Our heads are always held high. Even if they paid the ultimate price with their lives, we know that our Gazan brothers and sisters did what was imperative at that moment, what needed to be done. They waged the struggle that was required and set an example for all of us.
Our brothers and sisters over there are engaged in an incredible struggle. A struggle that is truly worthy of admiration, and they are setting a beautiful example of this stuff for all humanity. There is another aspect of the matter, which is that despite being 2 billion, the Ummah of Muhammad is condemned to isolation. The silence of the leaders on this issue and the disgrace of the Ummah of Muhammad, peace be upon him, on this matter is another dimension of the issue.
Gaza. Palestine has already been periodically at the center of our lives. No matter how much the agenda changes, it would come back to our center every few years, every 5 to 10 years, because there is a crime being committed there continuously. Even if they sometimes take a break, once they have rested and gathered their energy, the savages attack again. Before us, my father's generation, and before them, maybe my grandfather's generation heard about it, In that process, I was thinking about this. What would be the problem that there's a crime that has been committed for years, a genocide, and these people keep doing the same thing over and over again? What is the problem that it never gets solved or never turns into an effective voice or an effective sanction by the world?
A tiny little Israeli community could defy all nations, and wasn't just striking Gaza, in fact. After October 7th, it struck Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, Iran. Then it struck Qatar. Perhaps if we had the same tech and military might at our borders today that we had 10, 15 years ago, it would have struck our country within its claimed borders, and we believe we're still unaware of this danger. So, as I said at the outset today, in the lands we were forced to abandon during period of the War of Independence, we deemed our Palestinian siblings the other. Because borders were drawn, we deemed Iraqis, Iranians, Syrians, and every community outside our geography the other. But when we went to Çanakkale, we saw that we fought the War of Independence alongside these brothers. After that day, to prevent us from recovering, they fueled the Kurdish issue, the Turkish issue, right here in Turkey. We have also seen this in Syria for the last 13 years. We went through a process in Syria that could divide it into 5 different regions, and millions of our brothers there became refugees. Likewise in Iraq, in our very geography, they had turned us into communities struggling within themselves. But in the meantime, they had turned us into states that protect border states. Today, in the Gaza issue, we've seen that it was us who defended the states when they could not do anything while people have been trying to do something as civilians for 700 days. In other words, we were generating our own justifications. So, when we ask why the state, Muslims, does not intervene militarily in this matter today, we also see that the peoples living in Muslim countries within their own internal borders provide their own explanation for this and derive their motivation from it.
Conscientious people, those who stood against oppression, against the oppressor, people from various places from different countries around the world too, coming together when the time came through street demonstrations, protests held in front of consulates, and with boycotted Israeli products and various events held in front of their brands, there were many people in the world who tried to stand against this oppression. There were conscientious people.
So, this led us to the following thought. If we can unite these disordered reactions, the actions that have been set forth under one organization, one umbrella, around a common purpose, we can then reveal a mechanism, a movement, capable of achieving tangible results. We embarked on this journey with this very thought, this idea. Of course, the entire process proved to be quite challenging. The most challenging aspect of building an idea is to persuade people into it. This was not something widely considered to be quite possible. It was a situation rather considered like impossible dreaminess. But your duty is to predict the future, feel that moment, present the vision, and then perceive it as if it's already happened, and take action. In fact, the people of Gaza had already united the world.
Because when we took to the streets after October 7th to announce that Aqsa Tufan was a clear victory in Ankara, Istanbul, and many parts of Turkey, our numbers were perhaps not more than a handful, maybe about 200 or 300. But our process of embracing the issue within a framework of conscience truly began after the Shifa Hospital raid.
After the hospital was hit, all doctors made such a decision. They decided to hold a meeting and chose Geneva as the venue. Dr. Hüseyin Durmaz, organizer of the Turkish delegation, also attended that very meeting on that day. Alongside him, Ibrahim Tash, Halil Ibrahim, and some of our doctors joined it. Actually, that's where its foundation lies. The first meeting originated in Geneva. Then the doctors there made it universal. So from being solely a doctor's matter, it shifted to the public, to a civilian initiative.
In Geneva, the march by healthcare workers who gathered for their colleagues massacred in Gaza ignited this spark. It ignited the spark of Sumud.
Burada insanlık onurunu savunmak ve adaletin sesi olmak için toplandık. Hepinizin bu dayanışmaya katılması dünyada adaletin hala mümkün olduğuna dair güçlü bir mesaj veriyor.
What we are supposed to do is organizing it with a plan, a strategy. So, we proceeded accordingly. First, a global action, led by healthcare workers, took place. This was the Great White Tent demonstration in Geneva. Once communication, rapport, and a sense of closeness developed between us and the Western world there, we thought that, as healthcare professionals, we couldn't achieve the desired outcome. As all people of conscience across the entire world, can we truly make it? It was upon this very thought that the idea of the Global March first came into being. As you well know, many of you also joined us. Over 10,000 people from 80 countries bought plane tickets and came there. demonstrating their willpower to the Rafah border crossing in Gaza.
We are here because we cannot stay silent while this reality is going on. We cannot sit in our home and drink coffee or go to work normally when we kill dozens of people in each of every day.
We wanted our efforts to become more tangible and to translate into a step that would end the genocide there, because we shouldn't underestimate anything. If it is done with a correct and pure intention and in return for a righteous deed, then it will hopefully be acceptable in the sight of Allah. But there was a genocide happening right before our eyes, and we couldn't do anything about it. So there was always this desire within us to participate in concrete actions. Therefore, we always had this desire to participate in concrete actions. As you said, that's why we went to Egypt. Perhaps we can go to the Rafah border crossing there, and some steps can be taken. The main purpose was to reach our brothers and sisters there and tell them, "You are not alone. We are with you." To give them morale and to feel their pain, sorrow, and joy together with them in that region. All effort for this.
The movement, which began with healthcare workers in Turkey, gained an international dimension with the large demonstration in Geneva. Tens of thousands of people united to demand the lifting of the Gaza blockade. The march started on June 12th. It faced harsh interventions from the Egyptian government.
Mısır polisinin burada birkaç saat önce durdurulduk ve o saatten beri pasaportlarımız alındıktan sonra bir daha verilmedi.
Our plan was as follows from Cairo to the Rafah border crossing. We were going to travel from Cairo to Ismailia by car. From Ismailia to Arish, we would again travel by car. We would walk 50 kilometers between Arish and Rafah. But Israel's borders are so vast that we were stopped both by Haftar and by Sisi, and many of us were deported at the airport as a result of Sisi taking very serious measures.
Gaza yürüyüşüne katılmak için dün İstanbul'dan yola çıkmıştık. Akşam 6 civarı Kahire Havalimanı'na varış yaptık. Varış yaptıktan sonra hiçbir gerekçe göstermeden bizi bir odaya aldılar. Pasaportlarımızı elimizden aldılar, el koydular. Nedenini sorduğumuzda işte bir cevap vermediler, bir açıklama yapmadılar. Yani 15 dakika, yarım saat sizi de tutacağız dediler. Daha sonra geçeceksiniz dediler. Tabii bu bekleyiş uzun sürdü. yaklaşık 30 kişiye yakın insan. ممنوع التصوير هنا بدل ما ياخذوا منك الموبايل. كل شيء ممنوع هنا. لا هو ممنوع التصوير اصلا. لا يوجد بأس لا يوجد بأس. انت بتروح في اي مكان في تصوير. نفعل شيئا من فضلك. نحن نفعل شيئا من فضلك. Gördüğünüz gibi hala burada da niye video çekiyorsunuz? Ne yapıyorsunuz? Maskeli şey devam ediyor.
They were stopped at 4 different points along the way by the Sisi regime in Egypt, and their efforts to reach the Rafah border crossing, raise awareness there, and initiate international work to have the crossing opened were thwarted.
Burada herkesi otobüslere bindirip Kahire'ye götüreceklerini söylüyorlar. Biz ise buradan ayrılmak istemiyoruz.
Sivil Gazze, mazlum Gazze halkını savunmak için gelen, tamamen barışçıl eylem düzenleyen bu arkadaşlarımıza, aktivistlere, kardeşlerimize burada Mısır hükümeti tarafından ciddi bir baskı, ciddi bir müdahale yapılıyor. İşte
Tens of thousands of people in over 7,000 vehicles participated in this process, launching a project to cross through Egypt's border gates and reach the Rafah border crossing. It turned into another months-long effort. For 15 days, they were blocked by Haftar. Afterwards, those who reached the Egyptian border crossings were not admitted by Egypt. This organization was also disrupted. The ships Hanzala and Madleen were also intercepted at sea by Israel, and all the returning groups had promised to come back stronger, and this was demonstrated with the Sumud fleet.
Bugün burada Kahire'deyiz. Hedefimizden ve insani kararlılığımızdan asla vazgeçmeme yönünde ortak bir karar alınmıştır. Bugün itibariyle resmi süreçlerin netleşmesi ve daha etkili yolların belirlenmesi amacıyla faaliyetlerimize daha güçlü ve koordineli bir şekilde çalışmaya devam edeceğiz. Bulunduğumuz her yerden sesimizi daha da yükselterek Gazze'nin sesi olmaya, insanlığın vicdanı olmaya devam edeceğiz.
Every move they make is an opportunity for us to make our next move. Even before we left that day, we said that this time we would come back stronger. This time, we would bring together all the major organizations currently operating in the world under one roof. And we would launch an initiative with the will to break this blockade by sea. Then all these groups came together, and that's how the Global Sumud Flotilla was born. The preparation, operational aspects, ship procurement, and departure process all began within a 2-month period.
Let's first talk about the word Sumud, as you said. Sumud was originally the name given to North Africans when we went to Egypt on June 15th. 1,200 of our brothers and sisters from Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria came by bus from North Africa. They reached Libya. They even crossed into Tripoli, Libya. They came from the Benghazi side. As you know, Haftar governs Benghazi. Haftar detained 14 of our friends there, took them hostage and said, "I will only return these 14 friends on one condition, that you guys will go back. If you go to Egypt, these 14 friends," he kidnapped them, not even hostages, he kidnapped them. Our friends from North Africa had to return to pick up those 14 friends. The team's name was Sumud. Our team, the one in Egypt, was called Global March to Gaza. And the global from global combined with the Sumud from Sumud, becoming the Global Sumud Flotilla.
The name Sumud was actually a symbol of all the actions taken so far, and especially of the struggle in Gaza. Sumud is a word of Arabic origin, meaning determination and resistance. This particular word was chosen, and under this word, people from different countries around the world, activists, civil society organizations, media professionals, doctors, lawyers, all came together to initiate the creation of a special fleet. The plan was to form a fleet that would connect from selected ports, primarily Spain, then proceed through Tunisia, Italy, and Greece to reach Gaza and break the blockade. That was the fundamental basis of the project.
From a preparation perspective, it's also important to see that it's technically and mathematically impossible for so many delegations from countries that don't know each other to come together and organize this event in such a short time. At a time when the people of Gaza were waiting with hope, Allah Azza wa Jalla, answering their prayers, most likely brought us together in these ports, and this process was prepared in a short period of 2 months.
The fact that these friends wanted to do something, that they believed in our mission, that they believed in breaking the naval blockade, was an invaluable asset for us. And in that sense, we didn't want to lose or miss that opportunity. And because we had been involved with an organization that had done similar work before, we more or less knew how we could help. We felt we could do a lot. And even though we weren't directly involved in the previous organizational process, we gladly joined Sumud because this ultimately concerns us. It concerns Gaza, and we are now on the same path, the same route. So we wanted to help in whatever way we could.
Of course, many people participated. When the first applications were accepted, many people from different countries around the world applied. There was an incredible demand from people who wanted to participate. Of course, the delegation had to make a selection process. Among the people, especially those who would be placed on the boat, there were journalists, politicians, activists, doctors, technical people, and captains were selected. There were representatives from all sectors, from all different places. And the first working meeting phase took place in Tunisia. That decision was made, discussions were held there. A global delegation, specifically a European-based delegation, took responsibility for this task. and an organization was formed, led by Spain, Italy, Tunisia, Greece, and Turkey, with other countries also participating.
We actually experienced a modern-day Hilfu'l Fudul during this process. We raised a common voice against the oppressor, and there were people from every religion, every race, and every nation. There were participants from 48 countries, moving forward towards that goal together with those people. The conversations you have in a tiny boat along the way. Their questions to you, your questions to them. They're witnessing your worship. They're asking questions about your worship. Believe me, all of that is a gain in itself. Therefore, that 14-day ship journey is actually a multifaceted process that needs to be considered. And for my own world, as I said, I gained very important experiences from it.
For us, both in communities and in Muslim communities, the hardship and difficulties of a journey that might last for months, involving such diverse and colorful groups, seemed like a worrying, both because of our Muslim identity and because of the difficulty of the journey itself. But we saw that all of these things complemented each other during this period when the organization was complete. So we saw that their fears were unfounded, and that Muslims, when they make a decision through consultation, implement it to the end. We also saw that they respected the spaces we had created for our living and worship.
To be human, that is, a culture of coming together based on justice and goodness, took shape here. And this became a process encompassing many blessings. Throughout that process, without any arguments, disputes, conflicts, desires to stand out, or any problems, all these differences managed to come together to protect the dignity of being human, based on justice and goodness.
Initially, the fleet was to depart from Spain. The fleet will depart from Spain and then go to the port of Tunisia. After leaving Tunisia, the fleet will proceed to Italy, where it will meet up with those departing from Italy. After Italy, they were to go to the island of Crete in southern Greece, where they would pick up the group joining from Greece and then head towards Gaza. Considering that not everyone from Turkey had the necessary visa to travel to Europe easily, Tunisia was the most suitable destination, especially for the Turkish participants, because we could enter Tunisia without a visa. Therefore, most of the Turkish participants headed towards Tunisia.
When we said that who doesn't have Schengen visas and those without green passports should come to Tunisia, a heavy burden fell on the Tunisian delegation. The whole world came there. In this sense, we realized that the Tunisian delegation was not so prepared. We also realized how difficult it would be for a delegation when so much pressure is placed on it. There were various difficulties in Tunisia. The Tunisian government created various problems for us in this regard. In Tunisia, we didn't know we would have to go through so many qualifying rounds. So many courses were taken, and lessons too. We expected at least a significant number of the people taking this course to be able to board, but when the Tunisian government refused to grant accreditation to approximately 20 boats and did not allow them to set sail, a significant number of our friends had to turn back. Those who found a way in did so not because of lists, but through the boat's shortcomings, deficiencies, or by those hoping for a chance if something happened on boats with sick people. About 10 of our friends were able to find a way this way.
Şu an Sidi Bu Said limanındayız. Buraya geldik tekrar. Limandaki hazırlıklar devam ediyor. Geldiğimizde akşam üstüne doğru burada küresel delegasyonun Tunus ayağı sorumluları bir basın açıklaması gerçekleştirdi. Basın açıklamasında da değindikleri konu şuydu. Tunus olarak filonun hazır olduğu, elbette bazı sıkıntıların ve problemlerin yaşandığı ama genel olarak şu anda filonun kalkışa hazır olduğu, problemsiz bir şekilde kalkacağı söylendi.
The Zionists will not leave such a large organization unattended. They had already announced their threats from the beginning. Those who arrive will be labeled as terrorists and arrested. While previous ones were released in a week, these will be held in prison for at least 6 months. They wanted to break the resistance, undermine the determination, and weaken the organization of the fleet in the process.
First of all, we were aware that we were now undertaking a movement against the greatest evil on earth. Therefore, we knew that Israel would use every possible method, manipulation and sabotage. And indeed they made some attempts, such as regarding the captain's accreditation process and ICC documents, but they did not achieve their initial goal. Their primary goal was to prevent the fleet from setting sail at all. After the fleet set sail, they made accusations of terrorism as well as claims that the fleet was carrying weapons. As you know, the media has a powerful ability to manipulate. In response, we have managed to thwart these attempts through the principles of transparency, non-violence, and by inviting international observers. Later, in Tunisia, they attempted to reduce our number of ships through drone attacks, internal sabotage, and influence agents.
This was one of the factors that disrupted the fleet's movement. 2 of the main ships were attacked by drones on one day apart.
Az önce otelde oturuyorduk. Gruplara bir haber düştü. Tunus'taki İspanya'dan gelen gemilerden birisinin drone saldırısına uğradığıyla ilgili. Biz de hemen yola çıktık. Limana doğru gidiyoruz.
There's been another drone attack. This time on Alma. This is family. There's been a drone attack on Alma just now.
Israel, by carrying out the drone attack, actually tried to burn these boats. They had dropped an incendiary bomb on the bow of the boats. This happened at night. As soon as we heard about this, of course, we headed to the port. We went to the port, and not just us, but the Tunisian people also came, so there was great support at that moment at the port.
The number of supporters doubled the next day when Israel bombed again. This public support was much greater in the West and Europe. In Italy and Greece, people brought life to a standstill. As a result, governments were forced to support this process. The foreign ministers of 16 countries made a statement regarding this process. The United Nations again said this flotilla must reach the shores of Gaza.
Therefore, this also accelerated the delegation's desire to set out as soon as possible, because everyone sees that attacks and threats are happening. But there's no fear in anyone. No one is afraid. The only intention, the only goal is to move towards Gaza as soon as possible.
Biraz önce de buradan ilk tekne ayrıldı. İlk tekne ayrıldı, Bizert limanına doğru gitti. Bizert limanı aynı zamanda İspanya'dan gelen teknelerin de şu anda beklediği yer. İnşallah biz de buradan en geç sabaha kadar ayrılmayı planlıyoruz. Bizert limanına geçip oradan toplu bir şekilde inşallah çıkış yapacağız. Şu anda güzel bir ortam vardı. Sidi bu Said'de özellikle Tunuslu katılımcıların aileleri onları uğurlamak için buraya gelmişti. Güzel görüntüler ve marşlar vardı. Şimdilik durum bu şekilde. Allah izin verirse artık saatler sonra Sidi bu Said'den ayrılmış olacağız ve diğer kafilelerle buluşup inşallah Gazze'ye doğru yola çıkmış olacağız. Evet, tekneleri beklerken uyuyan insanlar. Bir yandan da teknelerdeki hazırlık devam ediyor. Şu an Sidi bu Said limanından ayrılıyoruz. Teknemize bindik. Cuma gününden beri buradaydık. Burada yatıyorduk. Teknik bazı aksaklıklar oldu. Bizden önce kalkan gemiler oldu. Ama Allah'a hamdolsun şu anda biz de çıkıyoruz. Yolcularımız bindi. İnşallah ilk öncelikle hedefimiz önümüzdeki filonun diğer gemilerine yetişmek ve onları yakalamak. Allah izin verirse hepinizin duasına ihtiyacımız var. Allah Azze ve Celle'nin yardımına ihtiyacımız var. Dualarınızı eksik etmeyin. Esselamu Aleyküm ve Rahmetullahi ve Berekatuhu.
İsrail bu filoyu istemiyor. İsrail bu filonun sonuç alabileceğini düşündüğü için en başta filonun yola çıkmaması için tüm girişimlerde bulunacağını ifade etmiştik. Ama filo yola çıkmayı başardı. Hem o gemideki katılımcılar hem Tunus'un eğitim yapılan bir yer olması çok sayıda insanın Tunus'ta olmasına yol açtı ve bu da Tunus'taki yerel arkadaşların kendi asıl gemileri hazırlama işine tam odaklanamamasına yol açtı. Eğer Tunus'taki diğer teknelerin tamir ve bakım sürecini beklemek zorunda kalsaydık, filonun geneliyle ilgili riskler oluşacaktı. An itibariyle filo güvende, yola çıktılar.
For 24 hours our boat broke down. We've been waiting in the middle of the sea. No spare parts, our battery's dead, no solution at all. We do have a sail, but we're too far out. Sailing would take for days. A long voyage is ahead of us. Then, when all hope faded, a ship passed by. We saw it was a warship. My brother Hakan Şimşek looked through binoculars. It had a Turkish flag.
Evet, şu an Türk savaş gemisi yakınımızdan geçiyor. Biz de telsizle sesleniyoruz. Çünkü motora sıkıntımız var.
Burası Adagio, burası Adagio. Türk savaş gemisi, duyuyor musunuz?
This is Adagio. We called the Turkish warship, but no response back. We kept repeating. You should have seen how happy we got when they responded back. Turkish warship, we're listening. What's your problem? They asked. We said our battery died. We've been stranded for 24 hours. They said, okay, stay on standby. A little later, they asked, what's your course? Now, should we say Gaza or not? We had a discussion over what we should say.
Sumud filosu kapsamında yola çıktık ancak motorumuz arıza verdi. Eğer mümkünse imkan dahilinde bataryalar ve enjektörle alakalı yardıma ihtiyacımız var. Destek sağlayabilir misiniz? Tamam. İnşallah Gazze.
They told us to wait, but they did not answer afterwards. We just kept waiting and waiting, and to top it all off, they snapped off the radio. No static. My brother Hakan Şimşek, being ex-military, said we're all soldiers. He said to snap off the radio. If a difficult or a disliked order came from superiors, we used to mute the radio and say that reception is weak. It is more than likely that they did not like the fact that we are going to Gaza and they just snapped off the radio. I think that after a couple of hours had passed, then we called them again. We were told to hold off and we will be contacted again.
Adagio, burası Türk savaş gemisi. Beklemede kalın. Tekrardan irtibata geçeceğiz, tamam.
Bataryalarımız bitmek üzere. Bilginiz olsun, tamam.
After having waited for a while, they contacted us again and said that there is a cargo ship named Sultan Atasoy, which is 5 nautical miles away from you. When they said that it is approaching towards you and going to help you, we got really happy. It was really hard to define our happiness at that moment. It was truly beyond words. The cargo ship approached us and gave us 2 batteries. But our situation was still uncertain at that point because the new batteries may run out soon. We are thankful that their chief engineer came to our boat and fixed our engine and started the engine using the new batteries and sent us off.
Ne demek abi, eyvallah.
As you know, we have been in a very hard test since we departed from Tunisia. We had many troubles throughout our voyage. There were drone attacks as well. Something Israeli army threw crashed right in front of our boat. From the get-go, we were aware that this voyage was going to be a difficult one. Throughout the voyage, it was so. Initially, 2 boats from Israeli Navy intercepted us. It was evening, around 8 o'clock. They tried to stop us using high-pressure water. We thought they would probably raid the ship, so we threw our phones away at that time. But after a while, they left us and went away. We continued on our way. After that, they came back at around 11 p.m. and they did the same thing. We were unsure about what was going to happen this time, but they left again. After they left, we continued our voyage till the next morning. We continued our voyage till 7 a.m. They showed up again at around 7 a.m. and threatened to shoot us in case we continued our voyage. Alhamdulillah, we had no fear in our hearts during these 3 blockades interventions.
The first harassment incident happened on September 30th. I personally video recorded a Zodiac boat passing very close to the Syria ship, and I broadcasted the record.
Şu an etrafımızda geziyor. Geminin etrafında dönüyor. Tur atıyor. Yani artık
müdahalecik geminin önünü kesiyor şu an. Gördüğünüz askeri.
As you guess, its goal is to create panic and fear and create waves. You know small boats are vulnerable to waves. It can even lead to capsizing small boats. It may result in capsizing and lead to fear and panic. The next day, we were told that 12 Navy ships were seen again, according to the information we received. Of course, we do not see them, but they were observed on the radar. We were told that 12 Navy ships, which were 10 to 12 nautical miles away from us, were coming towards us. Of course, we went on high alert. I was still having a feeling of that they were going to harass and intimidate us, but were not going to intervene, so we were going to be able to continue the voyage. Because we were so focused on reaching Gaza.
Selamünaleyküm arkadaşlar. Durum güncelliyorum. 5 yelkenimiz vuruldu. Bir tanesinin yelkeni zarar gördü. Bir kaptanımız yüzü yanarak hafif yaralandı. Diğer teknelerimizde şu an hasar bilgisini tam olarak netleştiremedik. Ama 5 tane flash bombası atıldı teknelerimizin üzerinde. Ve biz halen ara ara üzerimizdeki dronları gözlemleyebiliyoruz. Ara ara halen görebiliyoruz bunları. Evet arkadaşlar, 5 dakikadır üzerimizde dolaşıyor. Drone. Yakın mesafeden şu an dolaşıyor.
As a result, they raided the ship. But as I previously mentioned, when they raided the ship, we did not have any fear or panic. If someone happened to say, "Let's go," we were even ready for hand-to-hand combat, so to speak.
So, in the morning, they surrounded us again from both sides. They used pressurized water and they collided us intentionally. It shook our boat seriously. At that moment, they aimed at us, and one of the Israeli soldiers shouted through megaphone and said, "Stop, or we will shoot you." Our captain had to stop at that point. Right after we stopped, 2 soldiers got onto our from the bow side, but they could not open the door. The door was closed to stop water coming in. One of our friends opened the door amid the soldiers yelling and shouting. The moment he opened the door, he immediately turned his attention to the cameras. He started smashing all the cameras inside to disable them. Following that, he took us one by one to the bow of the boat. From that point on, they got onto the boat's main deck. They asked us who the captain was. We had collectively decided not to reveal the captain's identity. All of our friends were already in full and complete agreement on this. They themselves drove our boat. They drove it for a couple of hours, but because they handled it roughly, our boat's engine burned out, and we were left stranded in the middle of the sea. They made us wait there for 5 or 6 hours under the scorching sun, and didn't allow us any chance to move. Help arrived 6 hours later. Before that, a few of their soldiers came. They just mocked us and left. When the help arrived after 6 hours, they first put us onto our boat's lifeboats. The lifeboats are really small. 5 people can barely fit on them. It was hard to get on them. And then the soldiers forced us to get out of the lifeboats and they put us onto the military boats. And then they circled around our ship twice. After all these, a big warship approached us, and they took us to that big warship. Then they shoot our boat and sank it in front of our eyes. All of our belongings were in the boat. That is how they treated us. We heard that they did not treat the others' boats like that. Then, we took a 3-hour journey on that large military ship. As we approached Ashdod port, another ship picked us up. That ship took us to Ashdod port. After that, our port process started.
So they used to call us the 13th Division. They'd say we were warriors, so cruel and all sorts of things, but normal. Other friends are also talking about it. They were as unprofessional as some random private security personnel. It was as if they had learned military skills only from some books. They could not even get into the boat for half an hour. Then they somehow managed to get into the boat, but some of them got seasick and vomited. Some of them could not even stand. They did all sort of nonsense like not being able to dance, etc. 2 of them fell into sleep. We could even have taken their weapons and tied all the soldiers down. We could have even gone to Gaza and given all their weapons to Hamas. They were really incapable as soldiers.
We didn't see a single captive crying among the participants of our fleet, nor did we see anyone scared, in shock, surrendering, begging, or shedding tears to be freed, but we saw Zionist naval commandos who couldn't even stand on the ship. We saw soldiers who were nervous while questioning. Each of us saw soldiers who were anxious about even showing their faces. We all witnessed that what they were best at is harassing us, insulting us, when they had all those weapons and military means. They did not even pay attention if the other side is innocent or not. They think they have power to act so without any consequences. We had experiences from the Mavi Marmara. While we were showing passive resistance on Mavi Marmara ship, Israeli soldiers tried to get onto the ship. It took them almost an hour to get onto a civilian ship. The military unit that attacked us was, so to speak, the most well-equipped and advanced military unit, 13th Brigade. After that, they inserted troops onto our ship by helicopters. Our brothers tried to catch the Israeli soldiers and take the soldiers' weapons and guns using their bare hands and broomsticks, and so 3 of the Israeli soldiers who were fully armed were captured by our friends. But meanwhile, they keep hitting us, shooting with live rounds. Yet 3 Israeli soldiers were taken prisoner, and we ensured they didn't suffer even a scratch. Their weapons were seized and thrown into the water. You should have seen the state of those Israeli soldiers after their weapons were taken and tossed. As a lady was disembarking from the ship, her hands were cuffed, and 2 Israeli soldiers were marching her away from behind. The lady feels a tremor from the military uniform and is deeply concerned that she herself is shaking. She is afraid, wondering, am I the one trembling? So she starts to check her heart. She checks her body while walking. Then she realizes that there is no tremor in herself. She is walking normally. Meanwhile, she looks at those holding her arms. The tremor is coming from them. So, when you confronted them with a firm stance and unwavering determination, we witnessed a time when they were terrified of your very walk, even though your hands were handcuffed.
When we arrived at the port, it was time for the afternoon prayer. We hadn't performed our prayers yet, and they didn't allow us to pray at that time. So we sensed that the situation at the port was going to get tougher. Because we didn't experience any difficulties on the ships on the way here. I mean, the soldiers' attitudes weren't overly harsh there either. But other vessels had also docked at the port. They started dragging our friends out of there by the scruff of their necks. That's when we realized that the situation here was a bit different. When it was our turn, they took us away in the same manner. Then they gathered us in an open area. They made us sit on the ground there, demanding we remain seated for hours without lifting our heads. After sitting in one spot for 3 or 4 hours, they moved us to another location. This time, it was a somewhat larger area. But if anyone raised their head, they would immediately come and, in a very insulting manner, demand that they lower their head. At that moment, a police officer or soldier came right next to me, and in beautiful Istanbul Turkish, he asked, "Are you Turkish?" I replied, "Yes." He said, "Give me your passport." I handed him my passport. I noticed he spoke quite good Turkish. He looked at the passport, flipped through a few pages, and then threw it down in front of me contemptuously. He walked away muttering something in Hebrew. He must have gone and told someone inside, because even though it wasn't my turn for interrogation, they took me in first. But at that moment, suddenly, chaos broke out. We were facing the other way, of course. We couldn't see what was happening behind us. It turned out the Israeli defense minister was arriving with soldiers, police, and cameras. The minister arrived, moved to the front, and began to speak abusively.
תומכי רוצחים, אגב, האוניות שלהם נמצאו קרחנה שלמה. הם לא באו באמת, לא למשט, לא לעזור, אלא הם באו בעד עזה, בעד הטרוריסטים. אלה טרוריסטים. הם תומכי טרור.
They assumed that people wouldn't react. Perhaps that was the reason for all the intimidation up to that point. But in that moment, Allah granted us all courage. Every one of us told him, "You are the true terrorist. You are the butcher of Gaza." Everyone began to speak their minds. Slogans were chanted. He became enraged, went completely wild. He was utterly disgraced in that setting. The soldiers had no choice but to forcibly remove him. Interrogation started after that, but at that very moment, they began to handcuff us behind our backs. Until the defense minister left, no one had been handcuffed like that. But because of the reaction shown to him, they started using reverse handcuffs.
To curry favor with their bosses, the police put on a show there. There were friends whose arms were broken. Some had cracked ribs. Some were beaten. We were all handcuffed. We still have handcuff marks and wounds on our wrists. Many of our friends were blindfolded. But it's not that important. We are somewhat aware of this. We aren't doing anything wrong, and we have the comfort of knowing that, at least, our lives aren't in danger there. For a Palestinian, this comfort doesn't exist. We also know we won't stay here long. You might stay a year, 2 years at most. The world stands behind you and fights for your release. They don't want to keep you there anyway. But for a Palestinian, these aren't options. Even basic rights aren't options. A man is taken, and perhaps has no idea when he'll get out or what his crime is. Being there with that fear versus being there with this comfort is completely different. That's why I think we don't even have the right to speak. Did Israel act like Israel? Yes. Is it important? No.
Yes, they treated us, Muslims and those from Turkey, very harshly. But they treated those coming from the West even more harshly. They dragged them on the ground. They made them kiss Israeli flags. They didn't do these things to us, but they did to them. We interpreted it this way, probably to scare Westerners more so they wouldn't dare do such a thing again. But of course, it backfired. Later, when we were taken to cells and spoke with those friends from the West in prison, we saw that their existing anger toward Israel had only intensified. Then, during the interrogation process, they made us take off our shirts. I don't really want to describe the humiliating details, but their attitude was inhumane. It was very painful and degrading. Then, they took us for questioning. When they interrogated us, the first question they asked, which they asked most of our brothers, was, "Why did you come to Israel without permission?" We replied, "We didn't come to Israel. We were going to Gaza." Then began the prison process, where they put 12 or 13 people in a cell meant for 8, with only 4 bunk beds. Our time in prison lasted almost 2.5 days. It was designed to prevent us from sleeping for even an hour. They gave no drinking water, nor did they let you rest. The moment you rest just a little, they immediately bang on the door and take you out. They switch the cells so that you don't get used to the place. I mean, they did this to pretty much all of us. Even if they didn't do it to some friends, they did it to most. We changed cells so many times during that process.
We witnessed them coming with dogs to take away the friends in the wards who were chanting and protesting the most. They tied their hands behind their backs, wrenching their arms tight in reverse handcuffs, and took them away. Of course, as they were taking them, we were also chanting slogans, shouting and yelling. There was an anti-Zionist Jewish ward. There was someone in the next ward named Tommy. Because of his heavy swearing, they had raised the bar a bit. He was speaking very harshly to the guards. The Americans were also talking tough to them. When we saw the bar set at that level, we felt relieved too. So, we ramped up our insults and mockery against them as well. I mean, after the second or third day, things became quite relaxed. There wasn't really that high tension anymore. In fact, after a while, they reached a point where they were totally fed up. You could say we had made monkeys out of the guards.
There is truly a stance that must be taken against oppression. This stance is both humane and Islamic. I mean, some took this stance solely on humanitarian grounds. But others did it both humanely and Islamically. In fact, right here, we regained a value that we had actually lost. When they put us in that cell, there were young Italian friends with us. Blonde, maybe 20 or 20-odd years old, they just couldn't sit still. They were constantly forcing the cell door. They were shouting things at the Israeli soldiers. We had a friend with us, a Kurdish friend, and he said, "Man, this Kuro is going to get us in trouble." Kuro means blonde, as you know. I said, "No, let him do it. I mean, at least let him do it." When you see that dynamism in them, well, there is, of course, a self-confidence that the West provides. They also have years of experience in this regard. We see that they demonstrate this activism in a different way. But believe me, we must instill this spirit in our youth. I mean, this is actually a responsibility that our faith places upon us. We must cast off these veils of fear. And of course, we must demonstrate that active resistance we call patience, if we are to call it activism, in the proper place and with the proper method. Ultimately, what is it that those activists are doing? Creating more public awareness regarding that issue. So why shouldn't we do the same? Why shouldn't we have more spaces to raise our voices on this issue? And brothers who have a say in these spaces.
Choose your future professional career, but crown this career with the goal of making the world a more livable place. Be the best in your profession, and at the same time, let what you produce and invent contribute to making the world a better place. If your profession is something different, find your place in foundations, associations, or the civil society sector, in structures that serve these areas and add value there too. If you truly just want to pursue a profession, you can certainly become the best in that field. Allah may grant you many things in this world, just as He has given to the Israelis right now, but you would leave what you gained from this to your grandchildren and live out your retirement in a nice house, a nice summer home, or a fine mansion. The average life expectancy in Turkey is currently 70 or 80 years. After 80 years, your life comes to an end. But you cannot know what those coming after you will face, just as we are experiencing today. We need to rebuild a generation that will change the world. And in this sense, this isn't actually called paying a price. We can transform the world into a more livable state, turning it into a joyful and peaceful world. That is when we will have resolved East Turkestan. That is when we will have resolved Gaza. Then we will hold power and the production of technology in our hands. Perhaps we won't even need to fight, because there were times in the past when this was the case. When there was evil in the West, a letter from the Ottomans was enough. He didn't even need to go there to fight. Just with that letter, he could prevent the evil there. When he used his power for this, he could prevent the oppression, evil, corruption, and mischief that would occur there. We can do this again, all together, but it looks like it will take time. Our only concern is to witness the freedom of Al-Aqsa Mosque with our own eyes and to see Palestinian lands return to their 1948 borders. We need to develop a consciousness regarding this, because this process has taught us that unless we eliminate Zionism, there is no way out. There are only periods where the oppression is merely prolonged.
For instance, let them research Zionism. You know how Orientalists attack Islam, right? Those Orientalists, they scrutinize Islamic history. They ask, from where and how were Muslims divided? Let our youth do this. Through which mistakes did Zionism decline in world history? And through which mistakes did they gain a foothold? Let them investigate these things. Let them conduct studies on these matters. It doesn't necessarily have to be Sumud.
Know your enemy. Learn who is doing what against you. Because unless you learn this, every struggle you wage will leave you stranded halfway. In this sense, this is not just today's issue, nor is it an issue that will end today. This issue will eventually reach our own lands, right to our doorstep. They need to be ready. And if they aren't, they must prepare. They need to think like this. I have recognized my enemy. I've learned. I've read. Who are they? What are they? What do they do? How can I develop myself against this? What can I learn? How can I prepare? I mean, this development isn't just in the military sense. It encompasses everything: educational, intellectual, technical, and technological aspects. At this point, I think the best thing they can do is to strive within their capabilities to do whatever they can and to dedicate their greatest energy to this. I think it would be the best.
We actually mentioned this at the very beginning. Unlike the Gazans, we've accumulated many things we are afraid to lose up until today. But today, the blockade that has continued since 2007 and the occupation since 1948 have transformed the Gazans in their own lands into communities possessing a vibrant and unyielding faith. They have transcended the numerical calculations of the matter. I mean, they had already finished off Israel's power, its might, its Iron Dome, its supposedly invincible outposts and armies in their own minds. And from the moment they finished them off mentally, they showed us that what needed to be done, technologically and militarily, could be accomplished in just 3.5 hours. We also saw what could have happened if the world had given even a small amount of support, but we realized that we hadn't prepared ourselves for this process, starting primarily with ourselves. We saw this, we witnessed this on this journey as well, but we also witnessed how cowardly Israel is, and yet how cruel it is with the power it holds. We saw this in the Mavi Marmara, and we saw it in Sumud, and we saw it while watching what could be done to defenseless Palestinians. It knew no bounds. It continued to torment and oppress. But we also achieved this in the process. Perhaps they didn't let us reach Gaza physically, but together we broke the Zionist blockade in people's minds. And with this broken Zionist blockade, we saw the seeds of Gaza scattered across the world as a chain of conscience. We also saw that if this popular movement continues sustainably from now on, it could turn into a current that initiates a process reversing the global hegemony Zionism has maintained until today. Therefore, we have much more work to do from now on.
If there is any passivity in the process ahead, let alone abandoning the movement, it would be a betrayal of the people of Gaza. We must continue this. There is no need to wait 6 or 7 months. Everyone here must do whatever they can. Our congresses being held, our marches taking place, is an unprecedented organization being planned? Whatever it is, it must happen, but we shouldn't stand idle for 6 or 7 months.
For us, this issue is not one that will end merely with a ceasefire. I mean, for us, the issue of Gaza, Palestine, and Al-Aqsa Mosque is much, much more. It is an issue that must be addressed in its various dimensions. But unfortunately, those global powers holding the strings create perceptions instantly to either escalate or de-escalate tension. And regrettably, the masses quickly succumb to these perceptions. For instance, just think about the complacency that emerged regarding this issue from the moment the ceasefire began. But on the other hand, you see Israel continues bombing, and Netanyahu, with the confidence that he will face no accountability, can even state in the press that we dropped this many tons of bombs on Gaza during this period. The fact that some call it a ceasefire or peace must never relieve us of our responsibility toward that geography. Because what determines our stance on this matter is not the enemy or those aligned with the enemy, but the values stemming from our own faith. If there is oppression there, and if we must continue this struggle until that oppression ends, then this is what we must do.
Sumud became hope, and a global moral awakening forced Zionism to take a step back. However, considering both the people of Gaza and how their stance revealed Zionism's true face to the world, we must keep this rising wave of anger and hatred against these Zionists alive to achieve results through civil activism. Our entire struggle will continue until everyone involved in this genocide, everyone whose hands are stained by this sin even in the slightest, is held accountable and pays the price. So there is no "a ceasefire happened." Our mission is complete. Let's go home. We are obliged to hold them accountable for every single woman, child, and adult of the Gaza people. We will not take a step back from this. We will re-emerge with new plans, new projects, and new designs suitable for the current conjuncture. In this respect, I want to call out to all rational minds from here. See the new conjuncture and produce new plans, new ideas, produce them. Let's make this success, a success we couldn't achieve in 50 years, permanent. Let's make the world a better place, all together.
Fall day by day on their own land they meant to stay. The world is rising with one demand against Israel's bloody hand. In Gaza streets the voices rise, the scent of freedom fills the skies. The fearless ships cross through the sea and mercy sails for all to see. I am a human spirit free. I hear the children's misery. For truth and justice we are one. In Palestine till tyranny's gone. Oh, mighty voice that calls for right. Stronger than armies, strong in the fight. The world will echo from land to sea. Palestine will be free. I am a human spirit free. I hear the children's misery. For truth and justice we are one. In Palestine till tyranny's gone. Oh, mighty voice that calls for right. Stronger than armies, strong in the fight. The world will echo from land to sea. Palestine will be free.